Do scales have a soul? The German philosopher Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz wrote in 1712 to a friend of his, "Music is the hidden mathematics of the unconsciously calculating soul." So we understand music because our soul calculates. So scales are music, probably very basic music, but it should make our soul calculate. More than that, scales could get our soul in motion. Listen to this scale. The other way around. The scale is in a piece by Fernando Sor. You probably would not have expected that because this scale is a bit odd. When we have a look on the structure of this scale, what we see are semitones in this position. Here and here. Playing it from the root upwards, we have the semitones on the very first two notes, and here again. So we could analyze F-sharp Phrygian. Would you expect Sor to compose something in F-sharp Phrygian? I don't know. Probably this is not what Sor meant. And actually, let's have a look on the real scale that he uses. It's this one in the beginning. So this is very much Sor-like, but anyway, there is an unexpected, probably half step again. In this point. These are grades 6 to 7. And in the major scale, we would expect a half step from grade 7 to 8. So we would expect this. And Sor, or better, he writes it the other way around. The F Phrygian, the F sharp Phrygian is in here. So what is that? A Mixolydian or a Phrygian with a pickup? When reading the key signature, you see D major, so we expect D major, and the scale has to do with D major actually, because D is our tonic. But how can we understand that when we have this kind of scale? Well, the trick of Sor is very easy and surprisingly interesting, because he uses the first two notes as 16th note in a pickup. In this way, we have an accent on F sharp. Now, F sharp is not the tonic of D major, but it's the third. So we have some accent on this note, following by E and D, and so we run through the first 5 notes of D major downwards, and as the piece begins the pickup, the very first rhythmical phrase actually has exactly those 5 notes. If I now leave out the notes that don't take part in the D major triad, I get this. So the metrical position, the pickup, the downbeat on the third, and the end of the very first rhythmical phrase, because pickups repeat in the piece, makes sure that our first phrase is this 5-note motive and defines perfectly D major. So the single notes in this scale are not simply the alphabet of that scale, but they have meaning. So the starting point means the fifth of the scale and the fifth of the tonic triad. The first accentuated landing point on the downbeat is the major third, so as to say, hey guys, this is major. And provides after that the tonic. So there is soul in the simple scale if a composer uses it in a conscious way. Let's see the phrasing of this very first 4 bars. We have this to define D major, and then this little phrase alone sounds a bit odd, but actually it stands together with the beginning. And we land on G, which in D major is the 4th grade. And then so in some way this scale runs through the main cadence of D major, but without using the basses, because the melody alone let us understand all those harmonies. The third little phrase here we run through E to A. We will see that later. E to A is the perfect fourth and makes the A to seem the tonic of this little phrase. And the final, or if you want, the rest to the D tonic, the lowest note. And so we run through from A3 to D2. And this is simple scale work. By the metric position and by changing direction within the scale, Sor implies harmony, chords or bass notes that could be added. Great. So this scale has much more soul than we expected, doesn't it? Let's have a closer look on this very first little motive. We have the major third, the tonic and the fifth. The fifth has the power to give to the lower note of the perfect fifth a feeling of tonic. Rockers do use that very often in the power chords. The fundamental, the tonic and the fifth. And here we have our fifth and the tonic. As the scale runs through the fifth, the tonic is quite clearly defined. And then we get on the major third. So that's how we learn that this is D major. What if we change one single note in this? I change the F sharp to F natural, and what happens is our soul hears clearly D minor. I have the F natural, which is the minor third, to D. Our soul, my soul, immediately calculates minor, instead of what Sor wrote in D major. What if I change another note? Let's change the tonic from D to D sharp. So here's something that is really odd to our ears, something dissonant. Here has to happen something. Why that? The first note we still have in our memory, our soul has that. And the final note, the D sharp, it makes it a tritone, a diminished fifth between those two notes. And this tritone actually added dissonance even if those two notes don't ring out contemporaneously. This creates a need to be resolved. And what would you expect? Probably this. You recognize it already, the second part begins in this way. The guide-tone D sharp leads to E, and the two following notes make it an E minor scale. So there is E minor within D major. Our soul has a lot of music to calculate, doesn't it? Let's take a closer look to Sor. Here we have our motive. So a modulation to E minor, which is responded by a perfect beginning of the piece. It's just the same motive, but beginning one note higher, or better in the lower octave. So, again, that rhythmical motive makes here the G as the minor third of E minor. Two melodies to define a new key. So, before playing the piece for you, here are my learnings from this. Every single note of a scale has a specific meaning which derives from the position in the scale itself. Our ear and our soul recognizes and calculates what the meaning of this note is in base of the position that we detect in that scale. And the structure which helps us to detect where we are in the scale is made of those two halftones in there. The position of the halftones is the important thing to make our soul calculate in order to understand what kind of scale we're in, and by consequence what harmonies actually we are playing in. This is a very, very important thing directly in the scale itself. Now, when we study scales, we could make this mistake to believe this is just technical exercise. Well, it is important for your legato playing, for position shifting and other things. But why do classical music scales begin always with the tonic and finish with the tonic? The reason is the halfstones in that scales have to be in a specific position calculated from the tonic. And in that case, a scale acquires the meaning of major or minor or modal scales, whatever you like. But that's a very important point. So if you study scales, not only study the technique, not only try to get quick and as legato as possible and work on your sound. That all are very, very important points. But actually do listen to your scale and understand while playing what is the meaning of the notes in the scale. Let's take D major, tonic, second note, third, important because this makes it major, the first halftone, the fifth, the sixth, seventh is the guide tone for returning here. You probably heard me accentuating slightly this one, because the guide tone is a dissonance and we have to resolve. You know that story of Mozart who played and went away from the piano. It's sad that his father Leopold had to run to the pianoforte making the solution because he couldn't live without that. When you study scales, listen to them, let your soul calculate them. That is one of the important reasons to my opinion, to study scales. But if you're still here, you liked it. So if you liked this, just like the video physically and subscribe to the channel. Check out the other videos. They're great too. Thank you very much. Bye.